This is my £500 Cannondale, and today I'm making it lighter for free. I think I can save around 200 grams off the weight of this frame. To put that into perspective, this old Tegra rear derailleur weighs 207 grams. That's a fair old chunk of metal and a fair old weight. So it'd be quite a challenge to get that kind of weight off of a bike like this. I don't actually know if I can achieve this or not, but we're going to give it a good try. So let's get this frame weighed and let's get started. So the first thing for us to do here is to weigh the bike to give us our benchmark weight, 8.67 kilos. It's a reasonable weight of mid-tier bike like this. Quite happy with that weight. You can certainly get lighter bikes and you can certainly buy an awful lot heavier bikes than that. So first thing I'm going to do here, anything with an Allen key in it is going to be heavy. So we know these bar ends are going to be an awful lot heavier than just a standard plastic one. So I'm going to remove those. It's a shame because they've got the Cannondale logo on them, but for this exercise, let's get those weighed. 29 grams there. So I know I can improve that weight. And we're actually going to just use a plastic cap like these, 5 grams. That's already a saving of 24 grams. That's over 10% of our target for the derailleur. So we pop those in. They don't detract from the bike at all. They still serve their purpose. And I'm also going to shorten the handlebar tape. I never ever hold a handlebar that close to the center. I always tend to hold on the hoods or on the drops. So I know I can take quite a bit off of there and still be able to ride this bike quite comfortably with all my riding. So I've just took off about 2 or 3 winds off each end of the handlebar tape. That will, like I say, still give me all the handlebar that I need, but we have saved ourselves over the 2 sides 22 grams. That's a nice little saving in itself. Again, the 2 there gives us 46 grams of weight saving on the handlebars alone. Now, as I said, this was a bit of an exercise. There were quite a lot of stickers on this bike. I actually took these off. We did weigh them, but they actually didn't show up as a weight because they were so light a saving that on their own on the scales, they didn't actually show us any weight. But that weight has still come off, and actually it's cleaned the frame up, which was a lot nicer anyway. So I was quite happy that we'd done that after we'd finished the exercise. Next up, I'm going to take the wheel off because we do have that spoke protector on the back of the cassette. So I'm going to remove that cassette there, remove that spoke protector. If your gears are set up correctly and adjusted as they should be, you are never going to drop a chain over that #1 ring. So there's no harm in taking the spoke protector off. I think that's just something that manufacturers do over the years, but it's not always needed. Again there, 20 grams saving. So we're doing quite well already. We're already up to 66 grams of weight saving on this bike already. Next up, and it's actually our biggest weight saving on this bike, we're going to replace the inner tubes. These inner tubes were 10 years old. The bike had done no mileage. They were very old. They would actually let the air out quite quickly because they would have begun to perish. So we're putting the lightweight TPU inner tubes into there, made by Schwalbe. We're actually going to list these on our website, so do check those out on the website. You'll be able to buy those from us. But they are actually the biggest saving. You've got 110 grams there for one inner tube. You'll see now these weigh 45 grams. So the tubes alone, we've saved 130 grams over the 2 tubes, which is a significant weight saving, and especially on this nature of minimal cost really for a huge saving. So it's a good exercise to change the inner tubes alone. So we're really beginning to rack up the numbers now, just with these subtle differences. With these accessory bolts, I'm actually not using these at the moment, so we might as well take them out. They're quite long as well. Even if you was putting an accessory in there, they wouldn't need to be that long. So they're a little bit overkill really on this frame, but they were in the frame when we got it. We're going to use one of our detailing stickers to cover those holes to stop moisture and water getting inside them. We do these A4 sticker sheets. Again, these are available on our website in many different colors. We're going to use the red ones here just because they match the stripe. So we'll just pop a red one over those bottle cage accessory bolt holes, and that way we've saved the weight of the accessory bolts and covered up those holes to stop any liquid getting in there. And I'm just using a black one there on the bottom. Now the other bolt that I'm also going to deal with is this saddle clamp. You can see there we've got quite a lot of thread sticking up above the actual bolt that's needed above the nut that it goes into. So I'm going to actually remove that and I'm going to shorten that bolt. That will give us a little bit of weight saving again, without any cost and without any detrimental effect to the bike. So I'm just going to take that thread off. So we'll just saw that off. You note there I put a nut on the back of that. That will help me clear the thread once I've filed it down. So I just also file that down, make a nice neat and tidy job of that, remove that bolt I put on there to clear the thread, and then we can pop that back in. And as you'll see when that goes back in, that's now dead flush with the top of the clamp. It's perfect position. We'll torque that back up and we've saved that little bit of weight. With these metal bolts and threads and everything removed, another 14 grams. They're bolts and threads that we weren't using, so a worthy saving and free. Next up I'm going to deal with the derailleur cables. You can see here the tail on this is quite long. We did service this bike in a previous video. I deliberately didn't shorten this and I deliberately did nothing with the cables because we had this in our minds to achieve and try. We had a little tube here over the cable. That was actually doing nothing. That was from the frame to the derailleur. Didn't really do much at all. Was totally unnecessary to be on there. So we'll actually remove that and we've saved another little bit of weight. Again, the rear derailleur, we're going to remove this out of the frame and shorten the cables. So what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to run these cables back through the frame. I'm going to leave the original ones in. Yes, we could replace the cables quite easily, but for the purpose of this exercise, we wanted to see what weight we could save over the bike that we actually had presented in front of us. So I'm going to remove these cables, not quite fully out of the outer. I'm going to leave the outer and I'm actually going to shorten this outer. There was a lot of space up at the handlebars on all of the cables on this bike. So I knew there was a weight saving we could do just by tidying up these cables at the hood end of the bike, shortening them off. And I knew that it wouldn't stop the handlebars rotating or causing any problems with steering, and we could shorten the cables and save some more weight. So in goes the derailleur cables now. We'll re-put those into their positions, cut off the tail ends. Again, there's no need for the front one to be as long as it was, so we've saved that weight and the shortening of the outer as well. We'll torque those up. I'll then adjust all the gears, make sure everything there is working absolutely spot on. Same with this rear derailleur. Pop that in, get the gears adjusted, make sure everything's right, and then we will nip off the tail of the cable. So that's the amount we've saved on that one. A good 3 or 4 inches on each cable we saved in internal and external cabling, so a good saving to be had there. And you can see here nothing's unsafe. The bike still does a full rotation of the forks, so we know that the bike is safe, adjusted correctly, everything working as it should, and we've saved that little bit of weight in the cables. So quite pleased with that. And look at this, we've saved 8 grams. It's another little saving and worthy having. So that's 8 grams on the gear cables. Now we're going to turn our attention to the brake cables. Again, the tails were quite long already on the bike, so there's a good saving to be had there by shortening those cables alone. But we're actually going to also shorten the outer. You can see the kink on that little extension there from the frame to the actual caliper was quite a big kink. And again, if you looked at the servicing video, that brake caliper was drifting over one side, and it was because that cable out was a little bit long. So we'll address that at the same time as shortening the brake cables themselves. So again, same principle. We're going to just shorten the outers here, pop them back in the frame, both front and rear. Could have a little bit nipped off them, an inch or two here, an inch or two there, and we're saving weight. So that's what you want to be thinking about if you're doing an exercise like this, is where you can just skim a little bit here and skim a little bit there, and gradually all that weight adds up. And that's what we were doing with the exercise with this bike, was seeing just how much we could save with no cost and just a little bit of love and attention to the bike. So we're going to put this tail on the end here, this outer, where it had a big old kink in it. You can see there it's a much straighter line, a much better fit to the frame and the caliper. And then once we've actually tightened this up, you can see there how long that tail is now, as to how much we're going to save on this bike. That's a big old chunk of metal out of the way, and that's a big old chunk of weight. So nip on the tail end there, torque this one up again, make sure it's adjusted correctly. Same with the front, nip off the tail, put a new end on, torque it all up, and we've got a lovely saving there in the cables alone. quite rewarding, this one. Brakes, 9 grams. So overall, with the cables, gears and brakes, we saved ourselves around about 17 grams there. And then once we weighed the bike, we were over the moon to see it come in at 8.42 kilograms, and we actually had an overall saving of 250 grams. So we were very, very pleased with what we achieved, the entire weight of a derailleur plus some. So I can't quite believe we've managed to save 1/4 kilogram off the weight of this bike, way beyond the weight of a rear derailleur, with minimal cost. And to be able to achieve that weight saving without spending fortunes, especially on a high-end bike, if you're even higher end than this, to be able to save that kind of weight is quite amazing. Biggest one for us was the inner tubes. You can check those out on our website. But other than that, the bike now is way lighter than it was, and we've achieved what we set out with our goal. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe, like the video, that helps with the algorithm, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye for now.